So today we're going to talk about order of operations, and when we're talking about order of operations, we have some vocabulary there. So a power, oh, we're going to erase that and start again here. A power has two parts, a base and an exponent. Okay, the exponent tells us how many times a number is getting multiplied. It tells us how many times a number is getting repeated or multiplied. The base is that physical number that we are multiplying. So it's that number that's being multiplied repeatedly. When we replace an expression with its simplest form, we refer to that as simplifying. So anytime they tell us to simplify, they're telling us to get it as small as it can possibly go so that we can actually use it. Okay? And when we're substituting a given number for a variable, and then we're simplifying it, this is called evaluating or evaluate. Okay, so that's physically taking a number, putting it in our system, and evaluating and seeing what the outcome is. When we're talking about order of operations, we have a saying that we use, and it's called PEMDAS. So we have PEMDAS. Okay, this P stands for parentheses. So this is parentheses, brackets, fraction bar. This means anything that's inside parentheses, we must do first. We must get them done first. Okay. E stands for exponents. So what we do there is we're simplifying those powers. Okay, any exponents we see, we must do. If you notice M and D are together, that's because we do multiplication and dividing at the same time. We just have to start it from left to right. And the same goes for addition and subtraction. From left to right, we have to figure out what we do first. Okay, and that's the order we go in. So we're going to do a couple of examples. Okay, so the first one we're going to do here is evaluating these expressions. So we're going to do these exponents. When we see this 4 here, what it's telling us to do is write that 2 there 4 times. So we're going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. When you're doing exponents, it's always multiplication. So we're going to break it down. So we're going to start with the ones on the left because it tells us order of operations to go from left to right. So 2 times 2 gives us 4, and then we have to bring down the other ones. 4 times 2 is 8, and then 8 times 2 gives us a value of 16. So our final answer for 2 to the 4th is 16. So we're going to do that again. This time we got a 5 there, so that means we're going to write this 8 here 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, you always put multiplication in between. Okay, so 8 times 8 is 64, and we got to bring down our others. Okay. 64 times 8, when we do that, we're going to have to use a calculator for this one, so 64 times 8 gives me 512. And we're going to do it again. 512 times 8 is 4,096. And then we do it one more time. We're going to bring down that times 8 there. And that gives us our final answer of, once we do this, 32,768. Okay, so 32,768. So with fractions, we do the same thing. So we're going to take that, let me scroll this back up. We're going to take that 2, for some reason this is not cooperating right now. So we're going to take that, we're going to write this 1 over 4 twice. So 1 over 4 times 1 over 4. Remember, when you're multiplying fractions, you're multiplying straight across. So we're going to do this. 1 times 1, which is 1. And then 4 times 4, which is 16. So our answer here would be 1 over 16. And last one, we're going to do the 0.3. So 0.3 times 0.3 times 0.3. We got to write it 3 times because that exponent tells us. So 0.3 times 0.3 is 0.09. And then times that 0.3 gives us our final answer of 0.027. So that's a little bit about exponents. We're going to continue to do some examples here. So this time we're actually going to evaluate expressions using order of operations. Okay? So order of operations, if you remember, the order that we go in is PEMDAS. PEMDAS. Okay? So parentheses are first. So in this, we have a set of parentheses here. So we got to do that first. So 5 minus 3 is 2. And 2 to the 4th divided by 4. So 2 to the 4th, we did it in the previous slide. We got our final answer of 16. So it's 16, okay, divided by 4. And the reason we did that is because E stands for exponent, so exponent is next. And then we only have one thing left, and we have to divide, so our final answer is 4. Okay, over on letter B here, we don't have any parentheses, so we can skip P. We don't have any exponent, so we can skip E. We do have multiplication, so we got to do that first. So here we got 12 times 6, which is, or 2 times 6, which is 12. Then we bring down our 1. And then we just finish it off. 1 plus 12, which is 13, which gives us our final answer there. On letter C, we have, using order of, we don't have any parentheses, we don't have any exponents, we have no multiplication, but we do have division, so we have to do this division first. 20 divided by 5, which is 4. Bring down our 14 minus, and then we only have one thing left. 14 minus 4 is 10. And then for letter D, it's a little bit weird because we have that fraction. But we don't have any parentheses, but we do have an exponent, so we're going to do that first. So 3 times 3 gives us 9. Okay? And then this is a little odd because when you have a fraction, we want to simplify that first. So we want to get that as small as it can go. So 9 minus 5 is 4. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our final answer here would be 2. Okay, so now we're actually going to evaluate expressions. So we talked about that word evaluate, and what that word means is anytime I see a letter, I'm going to replace it with a number. So how do I know what numbers to replace? Well, they tell you. Here they tell me x is equal to 1. That means every single time I see an x, I'm going to replace it with 1. Here they tell me y is 3. So every time I see a y, I'm going to replace it with 3. So the first letter, A, they tell you x, so we said x is 1, plus, they tell you y, which is 3 squared. Well, now that you've done that, now we just use order of operations to simplify, okay? So again, order of operations is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, PEMDAS. We don't have any parentheses, but we do have exponents. We got to do this exponent here first. So 3 squared is 9, and then 1 plus 9 gives us our answer of 10. Okay, on letter B, notice that we have a number and letters next to each other. Remember, when you have a number and letters next to each other, that means that it's going to be multiplication. So here we have 3 times, remember, every time we see an x, we're going to replace it with 1, so that's 3 times 1 times, where we have a y, we're going to replace it with 3, plus our 1 squared. Okay, so according to PEMDAS, it says we do parentheses first, but in this case, when we only have one number inside the parentheses, there's nothing to do. That means it's actually done. So we're going to skip to exponent. So what is 1? So we're going to do this exponent here, 1 squared, which is 1. And then we're going to do all our multiplication. So here it's going to be 3 times 1, which is 3. And then 3 times 3 here, which is 9. And then 9 plus 1 gives us our final answer of 10. So on letter D, or C, I mean, so every time we see a y, we're going to replace it with 3. So I have 3 plus 3 squared minus 8 divided by our x, which we know is 1. So let's scroll this down a little bit. Okay, so we don't have any parentheses, but we do have an exponent, so we got to do that first. So this is going to be 3 plus, well, 3 squared is 9. Okay, we don't have any multiplication, but we do have division, so we got to do that next. So here it's 8 divided by 1, which is just 8. And according to addition and subtraction, it says you got to do it from left to right. So we got to do it from left first. So our left one is this one. So 3 plus 9 is 12. And that messed up a little bit. And then 12 minus 8, which gives us a final answer of 4. And then on part D, if we look here, so remember, every time we have an x, we replace it with 1. Every time we have a y, we replace it with the number 3. So let me do that real fast. Okay, and we do have parentheses, but we got to do this first. So 3 plus 1 gives us a 4 there. And then you can actually do the second set at the same time. So what's 3 plus 1 there? That's also 4. Okay, then we do have an exponent. We got to do that next. So that gives us 16. And then 16 divided by 4 is 4. That's a little bit about evaluation in the order of operations. And then the last slide we have here in our notes today is how to write and evaluate an expression in real-world context. Okay. It says you receive a weekly allowance. Every week you deposit 1/4 of your allowance into a savings account. Evaluate the amount of spending money you have if your weekly wage is blank. So here we have a weekly wage of $60. So first thing we need to figure out is how much we're going to put into that savings account. So when we says you're depositing 1/4 of your money, you're basically taking your money that you have and dividing it by 4. So 60 divided by 4 is 5. So we have $5. Okay? Which means for spend money, we're going to have $55. This should actually be 15. I messed that up for some reason. Which actually now changes my spend money because remember this money here is how much you deposited. So our spend is how much we have left. So 60 minus 15 leaves us with $45 left. Okay, on this one, we're going to take 100. We're going to divide it by 4. That's going to be 25, which means for spend money, if we're putting 25 of our 100 in the bank, that means we have 75 left to spend. And then lastly, for 200, again, we're dividing it by 4 because our money is going into this bank, which leaves us with $50 going to the bank, which leaves us for spend money $150. Okay, so that's just a little bit about order of operations and expressions.